horrific new video of a Ukrainian refugee's murder caught on camera. It is absolutely horrific. Trump is now seizing on this to push his nationwide crackdown.
I have to say, some of the replies to Musk, some of the comments around this story are baldly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a white woman. The open racism on sites like X today, it's eye-popping.
So yesterday we covered the brutal death of Irina Zarutska, who is the young Ukrainian woman that was heinously and horrifically stabbed to death on a subway train in Charlotte, North Carolina. And the video is genuinely one of the most shocking and appalling things you will ever see in your life, which really begs the question, because it's really bad, right? Why this would not be national news. It should be the biggest story in America. After all, George Floyd was the top issue in America for an entire year. Several others have gone on for many, many months. We'll obviously lay out those reasons in a second, but of course it was not the national story. As a matter of fact, the biggest story around this may be the lack of story by the mainstream media, who, as this issue was going viral, it was being talked about only by local news and on X, right, by online right-wingers, you saw a complete and total blackout and cover-up of the situation by so-called journalists. Well, what has happened since, as I actually predicted yesterday, is the story has become way too big for them to ignore. Trump has weighed in on it. They have to always react to what Trump says. You know that situation. But of course, they're now framing it as, well, online white MAGA supremacist conspiracy theorists are spreading this video in order to be racist and all this blah, blah, blah garbage. And I'm not even making that up, and we'll show you some of that ridiculousness here today. It is so predictable. And, well, needless to say, this is why no one trusts the mainstream media. But of course, there's the other part of this cover-up, which comes directly from Democrat politicians, particularly the mayor of Charlotte, who, as we talked about, hid this video from the public, tried to not let it get out, and not just because it was shocking and gruesome. No, it was because she was intentionally trying to lie and misrepresent what happened in order to back up certain social and political narratives. She, of course, was referring to this like a mental health crisis, saying we needed to have compassion for this guy who was just struggling in the head and, mental health is a disease, blah, 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 all this and that. And then the moment that it came out, what actually happened? She has been stuck in this backtracking cycle because this was not just a mere mental health crisis that we need to have compassion for. This is a young woman who was brutally stabbed to death in cold blood with no prior warning, no nothing, in the middle of your city. Ever since then, she has been slowly shifting rhetoric, and due to a lot of the largely right-wing backlash, now today is announcing she wants to do reforms to bail policies so that way you do not have repeat offenders like the suspect in this crime let out onto the streets something like, maybe 14 times. So interesting to see how the truth makes Democrats completely backtrack, change all their policies, stop taking the same positions they were before. Nonetheless, I want to bring you both of these stories here in today's video. Again, the updates on how this brutal death is being responded to. I also want to show you what Trump said, so we'll get into all of that. But first, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're almost at 500K. Help us get there. Hit that red button. And with all of that in mind, so very predictable. But as you can see, this morning out of Axios, here's how it's being framed. Not there's a grisly stabbing on a Charlotte subway that has shocked the nation, etc., etc. No. Here it is. Grisly Charlotte stabbing video fuels MAGA's crime message. Yeah, how dare MAGA, us actually talk about this? This is a political weaponization. Of course it is, right? Now, let's also be clear as to why the media is not making this the biggest story. I mean, I don't think we need to beat around the bush about this. There's a number of different reasons. We obviously, though, know the top reason, which is race. It really is that simple. If the races here were reversed, this would be the biggest story in the country. That is not conspiracy. That is not even conjecture. It is not a hypothetical. That is a known fact because we have watched and witnessed as the biggest story in the country was made out of things that even when you watch them are not as shocking as this video. I think about everything from Trayvon Martin to Breonna Taylor, to Ahmaud Arbery, to George Floyd, obviously. But we know the situation there, right? If this case on the Charlotte subway, I guarantee you, was a white criminal committing a crime against a black victim, we know what that situation would be. But I also like to point out, I don't think that's necessarily the only reason. It is obviously the most important one, but there's ulterior things going on here as well. They even pointed out here, right? It doesn't exactly support a lot of the left-wing arguments that they're currently making right now, right? Not just like larger social narratives on race and things like that, but even the current debate over Trump is trying to crack down on crime, and that's a really bad thing. Don't you know crime is down? Liberal cities are completely safe. And then you have something like this happen. So yeah, obviously for a number of reasons, this is not really a good thing for BLM, for the Democrat Party, et cetera, et cetera. But that's not us gloating about it. That's not us trying to do victory laps. No, we are trying to explain to people that BS, left-wing, let's all sing kumbaya, dumb, stupid, hippie, academic, Ivy League, social scientists, all the people who push these idiotic ideas, okay? I don't care if you have a flower in your head and you're some supposedly peace-loving hippie, even though you get violently angry anytime someone disagrees with your views, whatever. Your stupid ideas are getting people effing killed. That's our objection to it. It's not because, we just want to have the National Guard in our cities or something. No, because we are trying to stop people from being killed here. Do you understand that? Okay? Anyways, moving on. You see exactly, though, the reaction from, for instance, Axios. Here's what they say. Here's their actual coverage of this, by the way. The big picture. The rising numbers of surveillance cameras in public spaces, including on Charlotte's light rail, has become a big accelerant in these cases. Right? So they're saying here further, the video is easily shared or leaked and can instantly pollinate across social media. A visual counterpoint to statistics showing crime decreases. What an argument, mainstream media. What an argument. So keep in mind, these people are journalists, okay? Their whole job is supposed to be to report truth and get stories out there. They are obviously criticizing the fact that nowadays subway trains have video cameras on them. The reason they're mad about that is because their so-called statistics get debunked when the entire country can see what is actually happening with real people on the subway trains, right? Because you can manipulate crime statistics, which they do, by the way, okay? I'm so tired of this garbage about how crime is down when it clearly isn't. Oh yeah, LA and New York don't even report their crime statistics to the FBI. Oh, the Washington, D.C. police commander got suspended for getting caught allegedly manipulating crime statistics. But don't you know crime is down? No, crime's not down. But of course, what can't you manipulate? An unedited video that actually just shows the world this is what is happening on your subways. And these so-called journalists, okay, this is how you know, the modern day, the media are the state propagandists, not the people who question the state, are saying to the world, no, that has to be covered up. The people can't see what is happening. That is really bad in social media. Those damn social media pundits and their racism for showing people things that happen in the world. Because that's not the job of a journalist, right? Of course, this is the actual headline itself. The gruesome video of the fatal knife attack on Irina Zarutska on a light rail in Charlotte is drawing attention from MAGA influencers seeking to elevate the issue of violent urban crime and accuse mainstream media of undercovering shocking cases. Well, these statistics don't lie, right? 74,000 articles about George Floyd, 0 about them until we forced you to talk about this. So yes, you are undercovering it. And as a matter of fact, even when you do cover it, this is the way you speak about it, right? And then you're like, oh, but listen, don't be upset about this because crime is down. Which, again, is not even true. And yes, there is a media cover-up of this, and here's the proof.
Now, why would that be? Why would one story demand 100 articles and another story 0 articles? And it's because the media is more interested in the all capitals story, the narrative, than the facts or the truth. Take a look at the difference here. I want to show you the actual truth. When it comes to crime, the story is about race. Race. Take a look at the black on white crimes, 385,000 in 2023. The white on black crimes, just under 118,000. You see the comparative numerical difference. But now, here's what the media actually does. They did what our camera operator just began to do a moment ago. I'm going to step out of the way. I'm going to show you literally what the media does with a camera. They zoom in on this number. This number, devoid of context.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we are not the ones cherry picking this story. You guys are the cherry pickers. Okay? You guys ignore, much like you are right now, by the way, massive numbers, massive cases. It's very common. So, when you say crime is down, I don't know how down this crime is, but nonetheless, ignoring black on white crime that happens a lot across this country. And it can happen in very heinous and shocking ways, and you still won't talk about it because you're trying to cover for a certain social narrative. But white on black crime, which is one of the least, if not the least, common type of crime in America, when it does happen, it's the biggest story, and you put these national narratives out about racism. So just to be clear, Axios, MAGA influencers, if that's what you want to call us, are not accusing the media of undercovering shocking cases. We know the media is undercovering shocking cases. We are telling you. We're not claiming. We're not thinking. We are telling you for a fact that you are undercovering this, and even when you do cover it, isn't that so interesting? You haven't even published an article about the story itself, right? Your article about it is like, the MAGA influencers are manipulating this story. Shouldn't this story be the first story, and then you can talk about what the reaction is to it? I guess not. And of course, the situation here gets worse. We got to talk, obviously, about Brian Stelter and the other clown here on CNN, who apparently is totally unaggrieved by what actually happened, but he's accusing the right wing of spreading whatever, misinformation, racism, right, of all that garbage online. And, well, take a listen to how this is all being covered on CNN now that they're finally, again, being forced to talk about it. So here you go.
This actually happened last month. It only gained national news attention here in the past couple of days. Why is that?
Right, most murders in the U.S. never become national news. This one's garnered attention for a couple of reasons. Number one, first and foremost, the recent release of that gruesome video. Second, the energy from pro-Trump activists. They picked up on this video from local news and ran with it. It's a little bit like the times when civil rights groups have raised attention about police-involved shootings. In this case, it is Trump-aligned influencers who are posting up a storm about this case on social media. Really, over the weekend, Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, other Trump-aligned figures succeeded in making this senseless death a symbol of big city crime. We heard President Trump asked about it yesterday when he was heading home from New York City. He didn't seem to know much about it. He said he would get briefed, and then today Trump did know all about it. That's exactly what has happened here. This story has trickled up from local news to social media and now to the president's attention, and it's being used, as you said, Brianna, as a political symbol, with MAGA media calling for more forceful punishments and more incarceration. I have to say, some of the replies to Musk, some of the comments around this story are baldly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a white woman. The open racism on sites like X today, it's eye-popping. But there are also legitimate questions about this so-called career criminal, someone who had been a repeat offender. And those questions, I hope they're not lost amid all of the cesspool kind of comments on social media.
The open racism, that's the more concerning part here, right? Not the crime, which, again, disproportionately is way more common in this country than white on black crime, okay? No, people are saying mean things about it. I'd like people to keep in mind that, again, the situation here where it's reversed, a white cop or a white person kills a black person, you don't just see mean comments being made online, which I'm not supporting, but you don't just see that. You see actual violence out in the streets. There are massive riots. People burn things. People hurt people. People assault people, right? And of course, how did CNN cover that story back a couple years ago, if you may remember? And even during the situation in LA earlier this year. Mostly peaceful protests. Actually, the exact word is fiery, but mostly peaceful protests. As people are setting things on fire. No. The real problem in the world, guys, the really bad reaction when people get angry, saying mean things on the internet. Okay. Well, of course, what would you expect? By the way, as for the question of why is it becoming national news? Because the video is shocking. Now, it happened weeks ago. Yeah, the video came out recently. And it's not just because of national news because of the fact that the video is gruesome, although that's probably the primary reason. It's secondly because of the egregious and appalling way in which the local government here covered up the story. And with that said, I want to pivot now to talk about the Charlotte mayor and where she currently stands on the situation. And in order to do that, let's briefly recap the situation we laid out yesterday. So first and foremost, this happened a couple of weeks ago, right? The Charlotte mayor did not release the video. You heard this vague headline about a stabbing that happened on the subway, but nobody really knew. And here is how currently she was speaking at the time about that situation. So, in a statement on Tuesday, Mayor Lyles did not mention the victim by name or discuss any specific measures the Charlotte area transit system or police are taking to address safety. She further said she focused on the suspect and urged others not to demonize homeless people. Again, this is when we don't know what is happening, okay? Only the mayor knows. She says, don't demonize homeless people. It wasn't a big deal. Lyles said that the suspect appeared to have struggled with mental health and suffered a crisis. She said Charlotte and its transit system are by and large safe, but the incident highlights the need for stronger support systems. She goes on here to state that we will never arrest our way out of issues such as homelessness and mental health. Mental health disease is just that, a disease like any other that needs to be treated with the same compassion, diligence, and commitment as cancer or heart disease. Lyles added that the people living on the streets are more often the victims of crime than the perpetrators, and she goes on and on here. So, of course, you read that statement, not knowing yet what happened, and you would think maybe, I don't know what happened on the subway, someone was screaming at someone, maybe a fight, right? Because again, she doesn't even mention the victim. She doesn't express any condolences for that. Her primary focus is on having compassion for the suspect because mental illness and mental health is a crisis and we need to be nice to these people, et cetera, et cetera. Let's not demonize the homeless people, right? And she even makes the statement that you will never arrest your way out of this issue, right? So incarceration, arrest, that's not the answer. We all ought to send in a social worker and sing Kumbaya with the criminals or something. Well, of course, the very moment, as you could probably expect, that the video came out and people realized what actually happened, and you go back to the mayor's comments at the time, you realize it was a complete and total cover-up, right? It's like, this is in no way a proper response to what actually obviously occurred here, and that's why, after receiving massive criticism, once people put two and two together when the video was released and said, wait a minute, you completely covered up what happened here. Oh, it's a mental health crisis or something. Not mentioning the fact a young woman was just stabbed to death in cold blood on a freaking subway, right? So, of course, and yesterday, this is what we covered. This is what now she is saying. The video of the heartbreaking attack that took Irina Zarutska's life is now public. I want to thank our media partners and community members who have chosen not to repost or share the footage out of respect for Irina's family. So keep in mind, she's now finally saying the name. But she further says that she's actually accosting us. She's attacking people who are covering this story, and she's attacking the people who put the video out there, saying that it's disrespectful to the family. Now, here's the thing. We did not play the video for obvious reasons. I can sort of understand that argument, but here's the thing. The mayor has no respect for Irina's family, and that much is obvious, and that's not what this is about. The reason she is saying this is because she's really upset that the release of the video makes it very clear what she was hiding from us, how inaccurately she portrayed this, and what she's really responding to here are the massive criticisms of her, saying, how dare you release a video that shows I was engaged in a disgusting lie and a disgusting cover-up. She goes on here to state, this was a senseless and tragic loss. My prayers remain with her loved ones. So finally publicly expressing condolences to the loved ones, because keep in mind, thus far publicly, all she was expressing condolences for was the mentally ill person who murdered the girl, okay? So now finally we're getting that after it took the release of the video and public backlash, extreme criticism from the online right wing to say anything about it. Disgusting, right? But then she goes on here to say, like many of you, I'm heartbroken. I've been thinking hard about what safety really looks like in our city. I remain committed to keeping us safe and blah, 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 all of that. Although considering, she said the solution here is not to arrest people. I'm not exactly sure she's super serious about that statement. And of course, many people brought up before that despite her now comments about how she's committed to keeping safety or whatever, the fact of the matter is, to counter-signal what she said, you can indeed arrest your way out of this issue, considering the fact that the suspect here, DeCarlos Brown, was arrested 14 different times in his life, and not a single time was he kept in prison and away from regular society. So indeed, you can arrest your way out of this, and it's actually extremely simple. If at one of any of the 14 times people said, hey, this is a repeat offender. Hey, why do we keep releasing this guy out into the streets? He keeps causing trouble. And obviously, according to you, he was like mentally deranged, and I have no problem to disagree with that. He seems like he is, right? No one thought at the 14 different times they booked him, because of your soft on crime policies, by the way, that, hey, this guy seems like he's mentally deranged and might really hurt someone. Let's institutionalize him. Either way you want to take, right? Whether he would be in prison or in a mental institution, there are 14 at least different opportunities where the guy could not be on the streets. You could have made sure that happened, and you didn't. And after all of that, ladies and gentlemen, before we knew the story, this woman has the nerve to sit here and take the BLM argument and say, we cannot arrest our way out of this issue. No, obviously you can. The difference is you didn't. Well, that is why today, the update on this story is that the mayor is now backtracking even further. She's done a complete circle on this. First, she said she's not going to arrest her way out of the problem, and we need to have compassion for murderers, apparently. We need to have compassion for murderers. Now, all the way only after the story went public, right? Now she's going to stand here and could pretend like she's good faith. No, she's not. She's only doing this stuff because the story is public. Now issuing a statement saying, maybe we should do something to address repeat offenders. Yeah, gee, you don't say. Maybe you should have been doing something about that before the video went public. But no, instead, she was taking the soft on crime approach. But now, under public pressure, here is what she is saying to the Charlotte Mecklenburg community. As I reflect on the tragic murder of Irina, my heart continues to go out with her family and our community as we try to make sense of this horrific and senseless loss. Here you go. Over the past several weeks, as our community has worked to understand this, by the way, they understand it no thanks to you because you tried to hide the entire thing. What we know is that this was a tragic failure by the courts and magistrates. That's a 180 from saying that you can't arrest your way out of the problem, right? Our police officers arrest people only to have them quickly released, which undermines our ability to protect our community and ensure safety. I wonder who was involved in that problem, by the way. Could it be the very mayor who said you can't arrest your way out of mental illness problems? Oh, now you're saying they should arrest these people. They should keep these people in jail. Because it's a problem that, I don't know, someone who got arrested 14 times gets released time and time again. Why does it take the public learning that the guy got arrested 14 times when clearly you had access to that knowledge for you to finally say that repeat offenders should not be on the streets? Shouldn't that be the first thing you were addressing? No. It took the public to get mad at you in order for you to take the stance of the victim and not the murderer. There's many words I would like to say, but I'm just going to say what a disgusting person. Okay? We need a bipartisan solution to address repeat offenders who do not face consequences for their actions. Yeah, it would be bipartisan. Actually, the Republicans have the solution. It's called put repeat offenders in prison for a long period, okay? Don't allow them to become repeat offenders. The only reason it's not bipartisan is because the Democrats are big fans of the repeat offenders. They don't just believe in second chances. They believe in the third, the fourth, the 15th, the 16th, the 200th, right? And those who cannot get treatment for their mental illness and are allowed to be on the streets. Well, I also asked the question, why is that? Why are they not allowed to get treatment for mental illness? Because your party pushed heavily to close down the mental insane asylums back in the 1980s. And if we say we want to reopen it today, because the consequences of that are seen everywhere in the streets of our country, you look at us like we're crazy. So on both of these issues, you say we need a bipartisan solution. What political parties to blame for both of those things? Maybe the one who's called for both of those things, to terrorize our communities because we claim it lacks compassion toward the criminals and the mentally ill to not allow them to terrorize the innocent Americans who apparently you don't have compassion for. Okay? It's utterly infuriating. You want to do the compassionate thing. You know what would be the bipartisan solution would be is for you to resign from office. Okay, but anyways, we have partnered before on legislation like North Carolina's Pre-Trial Integrity Act, which clearly is working so well, by the way. You know, clearly, what a success. I don't even know what this is, but so much integrity to your justice system that this guy got out of jail 14 times. You're doing a fantastic job. No, keep going, Democrats. You're really good at this. And we stand ready to partner again at the local, state, and federal level. I want to assure the community that we're taking action. So apparently it goes on here. They had a city council meeting to talk about the safety and security issues on the transit system. I'm sure given the behavior of this mayor thus far, they just talked about so many big issues of substance, right? But it goes on. And there you essentially have it, okay? So she's done a complete 180, but still infuriating us in the process. That said, Trump has now weighed in on the situation. He states that I have seen the horrific video of a beautiful young Ukrainian refugee who came to America to escape the vicious war in Ukraine. The only Ukrainian refugee, by the way, that the Liberal Party does apparently not care about. So there you have it. And was innocently riding the metro in Charlotte, where she was brutally ambushed by a mentally deranged lunatic. The perpetrator was a well-known career criminal who had been previously arrested 14 times. What the hell was he doing riding the train and walking the streets? Criminals like this need to be locked up, which, by the way, he's been trying to tell you for months now. You also asked the question as to, why does the National Guard have to be in Union Station in D.C.? You know, that's so evil. Yes, a lot of people need to use it, and yes, there's a bunch of vagrants and criminals and fights and all these things that happen there, but that's so evil. Where are you people now, huh? You know, maybe we actually do need to have law enforcement or guard or whatever it is in train stations anyway. He goes on here to call out the Democrats and all that stuff. But here's apparently, as he was speaking at a event today, what Trump had to say on Irina Zarutska, saying, when you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions, which is true, by the way, which is true. Okay? Democrats keep on trying to run on the position that we are the bad guys for fighting the crime. No, we're fighting the bad guys. But take a listen.
I've made clear Attorney General Pam Bondi is working really hard that we must get answers about the causes of these repeated attacks, and we're working very, very hard on that. The Trump administration will have no tolerance for terrorism or political violence, and that includes hate crimes against Christians, Jews, or anybody else. We're not going to allow it. And there was also a horrible killing recently in Charlotte, where I talked about, and so many others, and we're going to get to the end of it. And, you know, when you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions. And the actions that we take are nothing. This cashless bail started a wave in our country where a killer kills somebody and is out on the street by the afternoon. In many cases, going out and killing again. Cashless bail.
Yeah, and I like to give Trump a lot of credit. He was not the first one to be aware of this story, but it is largely thanks to him that now the media is going to be forced to talk about it, because they can't ignore, obviously, when the president says it. But I'm sure very soon, after hearing his comments that are very obvious, yes, this cashless bail crap, this let's not charge the criminals crap, has caused this. Wait for Axios. What are they going to publish next? There is no proof that no cash bail policies lead to crime increases, despite the fact that there is proof. It's called this freaking guy right here. And many others. Laken Riley, by the way, same situation. He committed crime. He was, abusing a child, I think. They just let him out. He goes and commits another crime. And these are far from only two examples, but you're going to keep running with this BS. Okay, anyways, there you essentially have it, guys. Again, media calling us racist for talking about it. Charlotte mayor just pretending as if she's not this left-wing radical when she obviously is. And Trump forcing Democrats to actually address the issue, it would appear. But Democrats, of course, still calling him the bad guy. There you have it. That's our politics. So that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.